If you think about it this way, if you went into a bar and they only had one beer on draft and it was a stout.
Yeah.
And you didn't like stouts.
Yep.
And would you say, oh, I don't like beer?
Yeah.
It's the same thing with cider. And one of the big messages that I want to push throughout my cider loving life is that cider deserves its own section on a menu. Mm-hmm. Cider is technically wine. It's literally the same process as winemaking, but just a different fruit.
Welcome back to the Brew Dat Podcast. I'm your host, Richie Tevlin, joined as always by Evan Blum. And today we have on Claire Trindle of Blind Bear Beverages. So we recently had on Marnie. So she was a sommelier. Now we have a certified Pommelier.
Yes.
So a cider expert. So we're expanding our horizons. We are learning all about apples and cider today. So thank you for joining us. I know that you were involved with your brand, Blind Bear Beverages. You also do like beer tastings, a lot of different things. So we want to hear about everything today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Of course. So we've already poured some cider. So what do we have in front of us?
Right now we are just drinking a dry Pennsylvania cider. It's from Hale True, which was the last cidery that I worked at. And it's literally just Pennsylvania apples and white wine yeast. And it is fermented to be dry. It's fermented at a temperature that keeps some of the appley characteristics. So it still has some cool nuances, even though there's not any other adjuncts added, which is just an ingredient outside of the base ferment.
Yeah, this is good. It's crisp.
I could drink this, like I could crush these all day.
Yeah.
Yeah, it says 6.9%. It does not taste like 6.9%.
Yeah, so I can't wait to break this down more, but there is a huge misconception about ABV in ciders and sweetness in cider, and most apples ferment naturally between 6 and 8%. So when you're seeing a cider on the shelf that's like 4.5 or 5%, there's a very small chance that it's the specific apple variety and the sugar content that's contributing to that. But what's usually happening is it's being fermented to dryness, and then it's being doctored in some way. Like it's being back sweetened, meaning sugar or juice or concentrate is being added. So that's why there's this conception that cider is sweet, like cider equals sweet. There is sweet cider.
Yeah. So I have, as somebody that's not kind of involved in cider, for many years there was Twisted Tea, which was the hard tea that you could buy. Yeah. And then there was Angry Orchard. Yeah. And, I think, obviously tea is having its renaissance right now. And I think cider is kind of the same way, where there are all these other options, but most people probably are ruined by thinking like what ciders by Angry Orchard and these other large national brands.
Yeah, it's like, if you think about it this way, if you went into a bar and they only had one beer on draft and it was a stout.
Yeah.
And you didn't like stouts.
Yep.
And would you say, oh, I don't like beer?
Yeah.
It's the same thing with cider. And one of the big messages that I want to push throughout my cider loving life is that cider deserves its own section on a menu. Cider is technically wine. It's literally the same process as winemaking, but just a different fruit.
Cider it's in this weird situation because in Pennsylvania, I guess all states, there's a different license for a winery, a brewery, and a distillery. But a brewery can make cider. A winery can make cider. I don't know about distillery, but I don't think that there's a straight cidery permit. I think there's a winery permit,
It's
right?
a winery permit.
So
it's because it is
because
wine.
it's technically wine.
Yeah, so at Hale True, they have a limited winery license.
Got it.
Similar to a G license, which is the brewery.
Yeah.
Breweries can make cider. Cideries cannot brew beer. Interesting. Yeah.
Step your shit up.
Yeah.
It's funny because it almost comes at like when I meet people or younger people, I specifically think about my cousins, like 21, 22. They're like, oh, you like craft beer, you like IPAs. I feel like we kind of come at it the similar way until actually going to Hale True the first time and like seeing all the differences and like, oh wait, I like dry ciders. It's like, it's not just sweet. It's the same kind of eye-opening experience.
Dry ciders taste much more similar to the beers that we drank with Tom Peters than most other beers, even lagers or anything else would taste. It's like this is much more similar to that.
Right. There's this awesome book that is written by a certified cider guide, which is a level 1 certified Pommelier.
Yeah.
I'm trying to make Pomm happen, so I might say Pomm a few times.
Okay.
But the woman's name is Beth Demon, and she wrote a book called, I might butcher the name a little bit, but it's The Beer Lover's Guide to Cider.
Cool.
And every section goes through like different styles of beer, and that says, if you like this, try this type of cider. I firmly believe that if you don't like cider or you think you don't like cider, it's just because you haven't had like a cider that does it for you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I guess we're starting drinking. How did you get involved in this? Like, did you start off as a bartender? Did you kind of what was your story? How do you become a certified Pommelier?
Yeah,
certified Pomm. I'm sorry.
Yeah, we're making Pomm happen. So I started in front of house hospitality roles.
Cool.
I hit a point in my journey where I decided I don't want to work anywhere unless I'm learning something. Like I don't just want to go in and have this transactional relationship. I want to build and add tools to my toolbox. So
Yeah.
March 2020 happened. I was working 3 bartending jobs. I lost all 3 of them overnight. And I took a few months to freak out like all of us did.
Yeah.
During that time, this is actually a fun segue to bring up Blind Bear. I had already established Blind Bear. The DBA is Blind Bear, but the company's name is Sip Beverage Company.
Cool.
I started it with a friend of mine that I met at a bartending gig, and we decided to start a mobile bartending business together.
What is a mobile bartending business?
Basically,
It's just rent to hire bartenders?
private beverage caterer. Like it's like a caterer. It falls under the same like code of being a caterer because you're dealing with food products, but we didn't have a liquor license. We would give a shopping list to the client and say, this is what we recommend you buy. This is how much you should buy. These are the brands you should think about getting unless you want to save some money, get a different brand.
Yeah.
And then we would show up. I'm ramp certified. We have insurance, and then we would serve the alcohol, but we didn't purchase the alcohol or sell it.
Cool.
If that makes sense.
Cool. Yeah.
So that's the way you get around that in
Okay.
Pennsylvania. So many puritanical laws. But so COVID happened. Nobody wants to have events at their houses or at private venues. So I kind of became this like a beverage peddler in a way. I would drive to New Jersey, buy a bunch of booze, come back to my South Philly apartment, make a bunch of mixed drinks, and then like sell it to my friends because people were having a hard time getting alcohol. And I also made like THC lemonades, and I was doing all sorts of crazy stuff to make money during that time.
Yeah.
But then in this fall, I contacted a friend to hang out who worked at Hale True.
Okay.
And he said, I'm so busy. We're so understaffed. I can't, I can't hang out. And I was like, you're understaffed?
How convenient.
And I remember texting him, like, will I learn how to make cider if I work here? And he said, I don't know, probably, which ended up happening.
But it was bartending that you came back as?
So at the time, Hale True was doing dine-in, outdoor sidewalk seating.
Yeah.
So like table service. And then we had this adorable makeshift like to-go window that the owner and his dad built. So the windows are like almost floor to ceiling, and you like open them up and can hook them. And then they created this like little latch basically so people could come up, buy growlers, buy canned cider. So technically it was bartending, but it was also just a lot of like transactional. Here's your drink or here's your order. It was very transactional.
COVID bartender.
Yeah, it wasn't very hospitality.
Yeah.
It's just because it couldn't be. We had to be safe.
Yeah.
I forgot a very important part of my story. Before I even started at Hale True, I did promotional, what's it called? I did like brand ambassador promotional modeling for different liquor brands.
Yeah.
And I had followed Graft cider already I love their stuff.
Where's Graft cider?
So Graft is based in Newburgh, New York. So it's, depending on who you ask, it's upstate New York or downstate, but it's north of New York City.
Anything north of New York City is upstate New York.
I think that's upstate New York, but when you talk to upstate New York people, they get very upset. Are either of you from...
No.
Okay. So they're based in Newburgh, New York, but so I was already following them because I love, like, their cans are so beautiful, and they make sour and tart cider for the craft beer drinker. That's their whole vibe. So they posted on Instagram that they were hiring a Philly brand ambassador, and I had already been doing it for brands that I didn't really care about. So I jumped on it. I applied immediately. I was so eager and enthusiastic. So before the pandemic even hit, I was bopping around Philly to the Foodery, Bottle Bar East, Bella Vista Beer Distributors. And I was that person at the counter with all the cans open being like, would you like to try some cider?
Yeah.
And I didn't realize it at the time, but my first job in cider was for the craziest cider that's basically being made right now. Graft makes insane ingredient cider. They have all sorts of amazing adjuncts. Like, they do not make traditional cider at all. The owners are they're originally from, like, the Baltimore area, and they grew up there. They owned a winery, so they knew how to make wine. Long story short, they ended up moving to upstate New York and starting Graft and Backpack Brands, which is what Graft falls under. Have you ever seen Hudson North cider out there? They also make Hudson.
That sounds familiar. Yeah.
So Hudson North is their more mainstream cider.
Yeah.
And it's, like, very approachable, very drinkable. Graft is for the kooky people that like crazy flavor profiles. They do a lot of, like, skin contact with grapes. They, like, some of the craziest ingredients I've ever seen in a beverage are from Graft. So I didn't realize it.
Wait, they make cider with grapes also?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's because cider, the craft ciders, like, not the mainstream stuff, does sort of also remind me of natural wines. So I feel like that kind of blends into that.
I'm excited to open this because this is their farm floor. It's made with native yeast, and it has that kind of profile to it. So I had, like, a million jobs at this point. I was bartending, and I was being a brand ambassador. So I didn't realize it, but I was working for, like, the zaniest cidery possible, and I was convincing people to drink it. Because people coming into the Foodery, they want their, like, fancy Belgian beer or whatever, and I would just be in the corner like, hey, do you want to try this? And they thought that they would always say, I'm not a cider person, I don't like cider. And I was like, well, let me take you on a journey. And I would have, like, 4 or 5 varieties and just watch, like, I literally would watch their minds change in front of me. And then because, like, those places would sell it, they would buy it. And it just felt very gratifying. I was like, wow, I'm really, like, making a difference in people's perception of cider. Yeah. So during that time, my friend who was working at Hale True, I would come visit him. So I had already met the owners, and I was Lee's friend, Claire, who works for Graft. So they already, like, knew me as, like, kind of a cider adjacent person. So then fast forward 2020, my friend can't hang out with me because he's very overworked. And I said, what if we worked together again? Because we met working at Bar, on Sansom Street. Yeah. The Pickleback and craft beer pounder place. So we met there, and then I said, do you want to work with me again? Like, would that be okay? And he was like, of course. Like, I loved working with you. Let's do it. So I started working for Hale True. The first year I was the bartender, front of house, to-go person. And then they also put me on working, like, vendor events. So I would be, like, at the farmers markets, having a table for, like, food trusts, like Head House Square and all that. And then a year in, I almost left because I got a sales rep opportunity with a brewery that is no longer in operation. And it fell through last minute. And I was really disappointed. And I was telling my bosses at Hale True, and they said, wow, we're sad for you, but we also were realizing that we really need a taproom manager. And because you and Lee are leaving, my friend, he was going to nursing school, we wanted to get someone on that we trusted to run things. So we were thinking about asking you to be our taproom manager. And so I accepted that role, and I worked there for another 3 years. So I was there for 4 years total, but the first year was part-time bartender, front of house, and then for 3 years I managed the taproom space.
Cool.
Wow.
Yeah.
In Center City, right? That's our only spot.
7th and Cater. It's literally across from Good King Tavern and Campar Kitchen. It used to be Nomad Pizza,
Yep.
if you remember, just like half a block south of South Street.
Yeah. So when did you leave there? Are you still working?
I left there in August of last year.
Okay.
And so I've been taking time to just pivot, deposit more energy into Blind Bear. It's hard running a beverage business when your full-time job is related to also that kind of industry. So I
had to quit all my other jobs.
It's hard. Yeah, it's hard. And I now really love going back as a patron, and I love the owners. They're like wonderful people, and they do great work. They
do cool stuff. I know Ruby, he does like the Indian Mexican fusion stuff. He was at Campar once they had the fire, and now he's at Hale True.
He's he's gonna be there for their anniversary. Him and Carrie, the cider maker, made a dragon fruit cider.
Cool.
So they're like bringing it back as a little tribute to that.
Nice. That's very cool.
Yeah. So yeah, during all this time, I'm building my business. My business partner moved down to Atlanta. Fast forward some amount of time, we decided to part ways. I rebranded as Blind Bear. The reason I did that is my name's Claire. My nickname is Claire Bear. And remember, I was mentioning being kind of a alcohol mule earlier.
Yeah.
So there's a prohibition reference in the blind part. Back during Prohibition, bars would be called the Blind, insert something, or like the Striped Lion. Something.
Isn't there
like that.
a bar called the Blind Pig?
Blind Pig.
Yeah.
So where's that? I feel like I've heard of that, right?
So that means the cops aren't watching. Blind Pig.
Oh, wow.
So,
All right,
so you're paying, or Blind Barber in Center City. It's a barber shop during the day. You walk through the barber shop and it's a bar. So blind, or like if it's Striped Lion, they might like grab a cat from the street, paint it, and you go in and there's a striped lion, but you're paying for unlimited rum or unlimited Applejack or unlimited whatever.
Yeah.
So it's a prohibition term. And I thought like during that summer where I was like being insane and driving back and forth between New Jersey and here, I kind of felt like a little bit of a
Definitely.
peddler.
Yeah.
So, and I just, it was called Sip Beverage Company and I liked it, but once I rebranded, it felt so much more like
It's more personal.
Yeah, I was like, and it feels good to say. Like I never felt as good saying Sip, but like
It will be.
yeah, Blind Bear. Like it just feels good to say.
Yeah.
So that's what's going on there.
Nice.
And how recent was it that you started making your own mixers then? Like
I started that about 4 years ago, and the labels have changed immensely. The names have changed immensely. I would say this current branding and names has been live for about 2 years. I got my first retail relationship recently with the bottle shop on East Passyunk, and I'm trying to get it in more stores.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's a great little spot. They
Yeah.
sell my beer there. Check them out.
I haven't had any yet. I'm really excited to.
I have some for you after this.
I can't wait to try it. So yeah, this is one of Graft's flagship ciders. It's called Farm Floor, and it is
Funky.
New York apples, native yeast, and so yeah, if you like sours, if you like Belgians, like it imparts flavors like that. One of the reasons I really like working specifically in cider is because there is so much to be proud of because of the region that we're in. Mm-hmm. Pennsylvania is the 4th largest apple producing state in the country. And New York, which is where Graft is based, they have the highest concentration of cideries. And New York apples are also incredible apples for cider making. So
Didn't Johnny Appleseed plant the trees for cider and not for apples? I mean, obviously for apples, but like the apples were for cider.
So John Chapman,
Yeah.
who was a real guy,
Yeah.
he would exchange room and board for his skill set around growing apple trees and helping like boost the economy. I think he died rather wealthy for his time. But yeah, let's talk about apples. Okay, so name how many apples do you think you could name?
When I lived in Maryland, there was a lot. I used to work at Flino. There was a lot of cideries around there that we used to visit. I know there's one that's King something.
Kingston Black.
Kingston Black.
That's a hard apple to grow.
What I guess learned when we used to go to cideries down there was that apples for cider are much different than apples that you would eat because you're looking. I think the apples that you're making cider with are much more bitter. And it's almost like crab apple type apples where like you're looking for these like hardier, like they're like dense apples where they're not, you can't bite into them and they're super bitter and they have like these unique flavors. They're kind of like knuckly looking also. And it's just a completely different thing than just like a Granny Smith apple that you would.
You told me you didn't know anything about cider and look at you.
Well, once I start, I'm like, it's beer fest. Once you start drinking some cider, I like get into it.
I can name Granny Smith, Red Delicious.
If I was like, here's $100, name 10 apples.
Couldn't do it. I could name 4.
Well, I didn't even get one. I said one has King in it.
Yeah, and you only got half of the name. So the apples that we see in grocery stores are generally, we're going to bucket them under a category called culinary apples. Those apples are high in sugar and low in tannin. And the acid level ranges. The way the apples get categorized is acid and tannin levels. So there's 4 different types of apples: sweets, sharps, bitter sweets, bitter sharps. Sweets are the culinary apples. So high sugar, low tannin, mostly low acid. Sharps are high acid, low tannin. Do we know what tannin is? Do we need to talk about tannin? Okay.
I mean, explain it for some of the listeners as well, actually.
So tannins are a compound found in apples, in grapes. You can also like add tannic character using like tea bags if you're like making beer, cider. In a lot of different types of grapes, they basically impart both a flavor and a sensory experience. So the sensory experience is when you're sipping something and like you're like, man, I'm like really like feeling it's like a dryness in your mouth. There's like a roughness on the roof of your mouth. There can also be like a drying sensation like on the inside and here. So it can create this like sensory experience. And then it also, when combined with like sweetness or fruitiness, it can balance out a cider more. So if a cider is like super sweet but also super tannic, it's going to be perceived as less sweet because the tannins are kind of like balancing it out. But yeah, tannins, you usually hear about that in wine. But again, cider is wine, so very similar.
That's coming from the skin, I guess?
And the flesh. Okay. So with grapes, it's just the skin. Okay. With apples, it can be the flesh and the skin. So yeah, it's just it imparts a sensory and it can also affect the flavor. So yeah, sweets, sharps, bitter sweets are high tannin, low acid. So a couple varieties of apples that fall under that are Dabinet, Bulmers, Norman, Yarlington Mill. Have you heard of those? Do they sound like Harry Potter spells?
Yes.
They don't sound as appetizing as delicious stuff.
And then bitter sharps are high acid, high tannin. So we only really see, and I feel this way about all produce that we see in the grocery store, we're really only seeing like 1 or 2 varieties of fruits and vegetables in stores. There are so many types. There are like, how many types of like purple potatoes are there? I think there's like 20 types of purple potatoes. We're not seeing.
I don't eat fruits and vegetables.
But so the apples that we have access to in this country are generally in that culinary sweet section, and we're going to call those modern apples. There are also heritage apples, or heirloom apples, which make heritage cider. So those 3 that I listed that sounded like Harry Potter spells.
Is it like corn where like modern sweet corn that's not a real thing? Like the apples that we're eating in the grocery store, did those even exist? Or are those like kind of GMO? They've been like created over the years.
Each apple has like a different origin when it came about.
Are apples from America or apples from like Asia? Like, are there apples in Asia? Like, where are the apples?
So apples have a higher range of growing
Like
region.
latitude?
Yeah, so like 30 to 60 degrees on either side of the equator, apples can grow, which is a wider range than grapes. They're also hardier than grapes because of like their skin and how they're just generally designed, so they can withstand like harsher climates.
Yeah.
But there are certain apples that are from certain places, but because of people moving around and planting things, they can exist in many places. But there are certain apples that are from America. There are certain apples that are from the UK.
Okay.
The Harry Potter ones are obviously from the UK. So cider was the original beverage of the Americas. It was used to exchange it was used like money, like during political campaigns. Politicians would use it to win over the people. Like it was a currency. And then something happened, Prohibition, and a lot of the apple orchards were destroyed. They were either burnt down or cut down or whatever. And it takes an apple tree anywhere between 5 and 10 years to grow and produce fruit and be ready for like making cider. So that was a huge hit to the cider world. And then around that same time, German immigrants were coming to the US in the 30s with beer brewing equipment and beer ingredients. And because when you're starting from 0 apples trying to make cider, it's really hard to catch up with beer. So that's what caused us to only now be in the renaissance of cider, like 100 years later. Basically.
It takes a long time. Mm-hmm. Now that you're saying this, like, this might be total bullshit, but it's like it had other factors, but after Prohibition, basically all breweries got wiped out besides light American lager. Mm-hmm. But like hops are the same way as apples. They take forever to grow. Mm-hmm. So it's like grain takes like 1 or 2 years. They were probably able to like get the grain up, and then it takes a lot longer to get hops growing. But then at that point, it's already part of the culture. Mm-hmm. And then it's taken now like 70 years for hops to come back.
It's pretty wild. But yeah, so that's why we're now seeing like cider in its renaissance. Mm-hmm. But there sometimes, depending on who you talk to in the cider community, rewind. I went into being interested in cider and beer because I thought it was less pretentious than wine. And wine to me seemed very overwhelming. I can talk about cider and beer forever. When I go into a wine shop or like at a wine bar, I'm just like, I like wine, give it to me, like whatever, like what do you recommend? Like I know nothing. And I kind of like that there's a beverage category that I don't know anything about because I can like experience like consumer perspective there. But there are people in the cider community and the beer communities that are still pretentious. So I didn't really avoid that. I just didn't know any better. So there's these old school cider makers who believe that cider is cider only if it's certain types of apples made with 0 adjuncts and only certain yeasts made a specific way. And there are people like that will look at Graft or even Hale True and say, you're butchering cider. Mm. And then there's the modern cider people, which are the 2 cider companies I worked for. And I think that those old school people are doing themselves a disservice because they're not enjoying some like really incredible.
There's a handful of cider companies I can name, and like I know Hale True, mm-hmm. I know how do you say Ancho, mm-hmm. And now I know Graft, but like they're the ones that are doing it differently now.
Mm-hmm.
Like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so these are modern ciders because they are what Hale True does is they value supporting local agriculture, which is one of the reasons they opened, is they cared a lot about supporting local agriculture. So they get all of their juice from a orchard out in Morgantown, Weavers.
Yes.
It's like just outside of Reading. And Carrie, the cider maker, specifically selects certain apples to be in the blend so that if one apple that's in the blend isn't showing the specs he would want for like cider making, he can say, okay, well, if I add Gold Rush, it'll help balance it out and create a cider that is nuanced, complex, but also drinkable and crushable. Because they're making cider for the consumer. They're not making cider for like cider makers. Cider makers can enjoy it, but they're making it for consumers. They're trying to change the
narrative.
Yeah, they want to change the perception of cider. And they only do dry cider. They will play around with perceived sweetness, which I really love. They do a lot of co-fermentation. They have like one special blend they call it Dad's Persimmon, where they co-ferment persimmon that they get locally, and they co-ferment it with the apples. And some people will come in and they'll say, this doesn't taste like persimmon. And it's like, well, when you have a glass of wine, does it taste like grapes? There is a difference between making a cider from apples and then adding persimmon juice later versus co-fermenting it together. You're going to get a totally different experience. And yeah, I mean, there's so many other ways you can play around with it. You can dry hop, you can back sweeten it. You can also arrest fermentation so that a little bit of sweetness from the apples remains, but then the ABV won't be as high.
So for cider, are they pitching yeast into it, or are most places kind of like grapes, where it's just like like wine, where it just smash them up and it turns into alcohol?
Both. Okay. At most modern cideries, I would say they're using inoculated yeast, so they're buying some type of like Saccharomyces cerevisiae, a white wine yeast, different strains of that, depending on what characteristics they want to impart into the cider. And I don't know if brewers do this. Do they hydrate yeast? Do you hydrate your yeast? That might be
you should.
Okay. So the yeast gets rehydrated before it gets introduced into the cider or the juice, the must. And yeah, so generally it is, but they have done like special releases where they'll do some sort of like Basque style inspired cider.
What's Basque style?
Have you ever heard of Sidra, or have you ever seen someone pour cider from like a really high distance from the glass in like a fancy way?
Not really.
Okay, so
I think with wine I have.
Okay, so in the Basque region of Spain, there are these, I'm gonna butcher this name, escondiadors. Their literal job is they work at cideries in Spain, and it's still, the cider is still, but they pour it to aerate it so that it creates a little bit of liveliness, so that there's like a perceived carbonation, and it's sipped kind of like you would sip like sake with a meal. Like you have a few sips and then you eat, and then they pour another one and you have a few sips and then you eat, and it's meant to be enjoyed with food. And Basque style cider is like, it can be very acidic. It can kind of have like it's on its way to becoming vinegar. And Spanish cider makers are very like low intervention parenting style. They're like, we let the apples do what they want to do. And it's funny because like that's Spain, but then if you go to England or France, they're so controlling. They're making sure they are like,
it's kind of like the people themselves, and like Spain is very like laid back.
Yeah, no, totally. So like Sidra is, they're not adding any sort of like culture.
Is Sidra just how you say cider in Spanish?
Sidra.
Cool.
So this cider is a botanical cider. There's 5 different categories of cider styles. This is a botanical cider. It contains local wildflower honey and, no, I'm wrong, local alfalfa honey and ginger. So the ginger is the botanical aspect.
I can taste both those. I can taste the ginger, and then it tastes like, natural honey also.
Right.
Wow. It also, it smells of flower. Like it like really does.
Yeah. But yeah, I think it's nice that you can get all of the elements in it. Nothing gets masked. Like the intensities of all the ingredients. Like I still get apple-y qualities, and then I also get honey. But isn't it so interesting tasting honey without any sugar? Because this is like a dry cider. It wasn't back sweetened. It was just fermented with those ingredients, and then this is how it comes out.
Yeah, it's kind of tricking you. Like you're used to something that tastes like this being sweet, but it's not sweet.
It's so neat, and it also is like very confusing because, I imagine whenever I taste honey, like a punch on my tongue of just like sugar rush, but you don't get that. But yeah, this would be a botanical cider. There's also fruit ciders, and a fruit cider would be like I mentioned, like the persimmon. It's any additional fruit that isn't apples.
I know you do cheese and beer tastings. I feel like this cider would go really well with cheese.
I'm biased, but I think cider goes great with everything. I truly do, because the acid levels of cider just cut and cleanse so many different.
That's what. So
tasting
Marnie
elements.
Old, we just had her sommelier, and she was saying why wine is superior to beer was because the acidity.
We should have a fight. She should come in and we should go back and forth.
Her whole book was about, her and Sam Calagione was about wine versus beer, but you could do the same exact thing, wine versus cider.
Yeah.
And this is because of the acidity. This is like truly like you know, like it's kind of the same thing.
Yeah. So I will respectfully challenge that cider is better than wine because it is not as high ABV.
Yeah.
You know how they say, like, don't mix IPAs with spicy food because the capsaicin it'll like upset the flavor experience and kind of like be overwhelming. Alcohol level can do that too. So so drinking like a straight liquor with spicy food can be an unpleasant experience. So because cider is generally a lower ABV, it doesn't have that effect. So it's very good with spicy food. It's really great with fatty food, charcuterie and cheese board all the way. There really aren't any rules for don't combine that with a cider pairing. Mm-hmm. I truly believe that the options are endless.
And honestly, like it seems so new, or like at least the idea of the different types of cider is just kind of exploding. It's like it really could be. Also,
you don't see like a wine wouldn't add ginger to it, like because you can add for cider. It's like a totally normal thing to add honey and ginger to it. Like, but like.
Have you ever had a hopped wine? I've never had a hopped wine.
No.
I feel like a winemaker would be insulted by me even asking that. It's like, they'd be like, why would you interfere?
It's almost like for beer, you know, there's like ales and lagers.
Yeah.
For like, this is like, this is almost like the ale version of a wine.
Yeah. No, I see that. But yeah, I think cider goes so well with like food pairings. So during my pairing classes, I always go over the pairing principles, which are matching intensity. So you want to make sure that, you know, if you're like having a blue cheese, you don't want to have like a cider that's lighter and has less of a punch in it, because then the cheese is just going to overpower that cider. A blue cheese would go great with the last thing that we're going to try, because it's a deep, rounded out liquor that has like a robust backbone. So it's match intensity, and then the rest of them begin with C, so it's easy to remember. Complement, contrast, cut or cleanse, it's the same thing, and complete. And so when I'm doing pairings, I really try to do a complete flavor experience. My favorite example is to talk about ramen. Like, what would you pair ramen with? Because ramen, it's salty, it's umami, it is sour, it's bitter. So what is it missing? It's missing sweet. So having ramen with a sweet cider, either a modern sweet cider or like a French cider, which has like farmy notes, but it's also sweeter, that would be amazing together, because you're getting every single tasting experience in one sitting. But it's also fun to try things that are contrasting or complementing, like having a fruited cider, like a blackberry cider with some sort of food that has blackberry jam on it. And then you're having blackberry two ways and you're like, what is going on in my mouth? But yeah, I like to go over the pairing principles, because then people really feel like they can say stuff. I think people are so afraid to be wrong. Like everyone thinks that their palate is wrong. And that's another thing I like to tell people is, if you're smelling it, if you're tasting it, it's there. You can smell orange. You can smell candied ginger. You can taste apple, even if it's not technically in there. If you're getting some sort of association, like, it's there. And I think that there's this perception that like having a refined palate is like a snooty, snobby thing, and people are impressed with me when I can bring out tasting notes and something. And I've just been doing this for a long time. No one comes out of the womb and is like amazing at. Like,
we were doing with Tom Peters.
Yeah,
Evan was just like, we were talking about like the flavors and stuff, and he was like, I don't know what to say. This just tastes really good. Yeah. You just have to practice saying it. Just say it, and if you're wrong, just say it.
It's like I've never had experience, like, and as we know, like I'm I don't have the classic beverage background, like a marketing background. So I'm learning as all this is going. It's like I've never actually.
But when you say it, we can understand. Like, yeah, I taste it. But like, even if you're wrong, you have to say it and then like maybe be corrected. But you going through the process of like saying it and drinking it and thinking about it, I think just drinking and thinking about it isn't enough. You actually have to talk about it to like for your mind to capture.
I called out flowers in this. I'm like not even kidding.
They are good.
But that was me trying to like call out a
I mean, that makes sense. There's honey in here. Like bees are all around. They're collecting so many different aromas and flavors through their journey, and then they're imparting it into the honey that they're making. And then this is local honey. So you're getting local Pennsylvania terroir when you're drinking this.
So crazy.
My favorite flavor combination is cheesy and sugary. It's like when you have like a brie or like any type of like cheese with like sugar with it, to me, that is the greatest flavor ever. And as much as it's not sweet because it's dry, like it has the perceived sweetness. So like this with cheese, like when I'm tasting this, I'm like, I really wish I had cheese right now. Like I'll
bring it next.
It is my my favorite tasting is like, it's like the funky as you can get with sugar. Yeah. That's like my favorite flavor combo.
I love dipping cheese into honey.
Yeah, like I mean, it's part of the charcuterie board is like the dried out fruit, which is like super sugary or honey with the cheeses.
Yeah, it's great. I'm a sweet and spicy person.
I can't do spicy.
No, that's okay.
I'm working on it, but it takes a while.
What was next? I had something else to say. It'll come to me. But yeah. Oh, so. Worked at Hale True for a few years. Yeah. The last year that I was there, the Pink Boot Society conference, the national conference, was in Philly last year, which was very exciting. And my girl, Erin Wallace, who I know you know.
Oh, yeah.
She really pushed me to apply to be a speaker.
Cool.
And it's so funny, even before I came tonight, I like had a imposter syndrome moment where I thought, why do people want to hear what I have to say? Like, do I deserve to be here? And I had that same experience with her telling me, like, you should apply. Like, why not? What's the worst that could happen? And I was just thinking, like, what do I have to say about cider? And, you know, Erin was sharing that Pink Boots recently, and by recently, I mean a few years ago, but they were so beer heavy for so long. And then in 2021, when I became involved, they opened it up to anything fermented, not just beer. So cider was invited to the table. Yeah. So I presented at a national conference, and that was my first presentation on cider that I'd ever done. And it was called Getting to Know Cider, a craft, Getting to Know Cider. How can I not remember the title of my presentation? Oh, okay. Getting to Know Cider, a crash course for beer drinkers. That's what it was called. Because I was speaking to mostly a room of brewer chicks. And I was like, how do I make them see how similar it is, but also the distinctions? And that felt really special. And then since then, I've dove in more into things. I decided to get my certified Pommelier certification. And so this year, I'm judging at 2 cider competitions. One is Glint Cap, which is the largest cider competition in the world.
Wow. Where's that?
Grand Rapids, Michigan.
Cool.
And I'm also...
There's a lot of apples in Michigan?
Yes. Michigan is in the top 5. And you guess the other 2 or the other 3? So you know Pennsylvania...
New York,
Michigan, New York,
Illinois.
Go west. Go west.
Idaho. No, not Idaho. That's potatoes. Oregon. Washington.
Washington.
Oh, interesting.
California.
California. So those are the top 5. So yeah, Michigan has amazing cider. CiderCon, which is the National Cider Conference. Every other year it does Chicago, East Coast, Chicago, West Coast. So this past year it was in Chicago. And because Chicago is so close to Michigan, the ciders in Chicago are so good.
I'm sure.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm judging at Glint Cap and at another cider competition in Springfield, Massachusetts. So that feels really exciting. And that all happened. I got picked before I even got my Pommelier results. So once I got them, I was just so excited. And then I'm also presenting at 2 craft beverage conferences.
Cool. Oh, wow.
So
That's awesome.
Well, because breweries can make cider, that's part of your business. Why are you not kind of taking advantage of this?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm assuming you guys have been to Human Robot.
Yep.
Okay. So I love the section on their menu that's like, this is for the people that didn't want to be here anyway. And it's like the cider, the seltzer, the wine, the whiskey. Stuff. Yeah. I'm pretty sure Yards Brewing is the largest wholesale account for Hale and True. So like enough people are going to Yards Brewery to drink cider. So why isn't every brewery doing that? It's a lost market that they're not really leaning
It's also
into.
because, with a brewing license, you can sell Pennsylvania-made wine, spirits, anything. And because, like you said, Pennsylvania is such a great cider state, why would you not take it? Even if you aren't taking advantage of, like, you are producing your own cider, why would you not take advantage of these great cideries that you have access to?
Right. So now we're going to have a co-ferment, which we all know what that is now.
It's a different color.
I'm not going to tell you what's in it, and I want you to use your palates and guess what could be in it. What notes are you getting? Does it smell like it's going to taste sweet?
I would think so. It honestly, it reminds me of like Reds, like a little bit. Like the
apple ale?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I haven't had that in so long.
I mean, it's been a minute, but
I don't know if I'm wrong. I think there's more flavor than it has a aroma. And I think a strawberry is like something that has a very weak flavor, a weak aroma. It has like almost no aroma. It's very hard to make strawberry anything, but this kind of tastes. I don't think it is strawberry because it's a little bit off.
Ooh, you got some bits in there. That's good.
It tastes. I don't know. It has more flavor than it has an aroma, I think.
Well, you are correct in the red fruit category. You're in the red.
Well, I would hope so. It's red, but
so this is a co-ferment with cranberry.
Okay.
And maple syrup.
But cranberry is another fruit where like I don't smell so much cranberry. I think cranberry is more of a flavor, a taste than it is a aroma.
But once you find out when you take the sip, don't you get like the tartness of what you would get from cranberry?
Yeah.
But this is a co-ferment. Like the cranberries were fermented. So it adds a whole other dimension to the flavor experience.
It's more like a robust flavor.
This with Thanksgiving food, complete pairing.
Yeah, definitely.
Yep.
Like think about all the things that you would have on a plate at Thanksgiving. With that, incredible. Highly recommend.
I wish you brought some food. I'm getting hungry. This is really good. And this is from Hale and True?
Yep, Hale and True. Yep. So this is the season. It's one of their seasonals. They release it around Thanksgiving every year.
So cideries, are they kind of the same thing as like breweries? They have a couple flagships and then spin-offs? Like what?
Yeah. So at Hale, they offer a flight pairing. I know some breweries are moving away from that. And they usually...
By the way, I'm anti-flight.
Oh.
I am...
You're like, just commit.
Publicly saying anti-flight, but I have found a loophole. Eventually, so I'm working on getting a Taproom open. I found a loophole. I'm not ready to talk about it yet, but I found a happy medium. Okay. Everyone's going to enjoy it.
Oh, God, I cannot wait for this.
Is it like a half pour?
I'm not ready to talk about it. But it's... I'm publicly saying like I'm now not 100% anti-flight.
Okay.
But great. I'm sorry to interrupt you. But
Thank you for sharing.
It's a very common like dispute.
He's pro-flight. I'm anti-flight.
Yeah.
But
I think that for where cider is right now, I think flights are great for cideries.
Definitely. I mean, everything that you've given us is like very different from each other.
Right. Right. I think that because there is still so much apprehension because of the perception of cider, I think it's really good to
There's so much education that's available. It's like you can like just drink through and like,
Right. But yeah, so they have a couple flagships, and those are offered in the flight, and then they'll usually add like 1 or 2 seasonals to it just to give people a general introduction into what their flavor profiles are. And this is also a pairing principle I mentioned in my tastings is you always want to go from mild to wild. So you don't want to have like at this with a wine tasting, you don't want the first wine to be like a port wine. You want it to be like a lighter, usually a white or a rosé, and then get darker and more robust as you go left to right. And it's the same principle with ciders. So usually the standard, which is the first cider that we tried, it's just apples, just Pennsylvania apples and white wine yeast. So that's usually the first cider on the flight. And then they introduce some adjuncts. They have a hopped cider that is usually on the flight. And then they'll add something like the last 2 that we tried, like the honey ginger and then the maple syrup cranberry. But yeah, mild to wild.
Cool.
Yeah. We also do they also do cider cocktails. So it's a cool way to get, because cider can also be used as a cocktail ingredient replacement. It can be used in the same way you would top something off with club soda or tonic water. It's also great as a champagne replacement, and it's lower ABV. So if you're trying to like mellow it out.
At Victory, the best beer to get, they have flavored ciders. They're part of Bold Rock.
Oh, okay.
So Bold Rock has different types of cider, like all different flavored ciders.
Yeah.
You get a flavored cider, and then you do half that, and then half a sour monkey, and it is so good. It just tastes like candy.
That sounds like candy.
It's delicious.
Sounds a little dangerous.
I forget what they used to call it, but it was.
Well,
so
isn't that
good.
a snake bite?
It's a snake bite. Yes.
Yeah. So at like Irish pubs, like they do like the half and half beer pours. Like what's the other one? It's like it'll be like a Guinness and a lighter beer. They call it something else.
Yeah.
But yeah, a snake bite is a beer with a cider.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Black and tan. Is that what you're talking about?
Black and tan, and then there's another one I'm forgetting. But yeah, it's they use this like special spoon, and as they're like pouring the Guinness on top of the other beer, they like make sure to have it like be separated still. I worked at an Irish pub like 14 years ago for a month. So
have you seen this just went viral a couple months ago. It was a Red Bull, like a Monster and a Guinness.
Oh no.
That sounds.
And it was like bright green and then like a Guinness.
Something that's pretty cool, right? Like a few.
I mean, it's
places
so
do
cheesy,
it.
but like.
I don't know. I was a Four Loko girl in college, so I guess I can't really judge. But
Evan was 11 years old when the good Four Locos were out, but that was a wild time. Four Loko
pre-recipe change.
Yes. No.
Just to clarify,
the recipe got changed when I was 18 and a half years old.
Okay.
And I remember because it was my freshman year of college, and it was just like it was a big deal when that changed.
Yeah.
But
the masses were upset.
I mean, as they should be. I mean, like, Prohibition was a terrible thing, but it came around because people were doing crazy shit.
Yeah.
And they needed to stop Four Loko. We were on a crash course.
Honestly,
that was horrible.
I was never proud of myself on Four Loko.
I'm curious if this was a different recipe when I was in college, because I never drank Four Loko. Like, it wasn't even a common thing.
It was so strong.
I think I want to say it was. I remember drinking a lot of Four Loko in 2010 and 2011.
Yes.
And then I think the recipe changed maybe 12 or 13.
Yes. So when I was, we'll say this, when I was of legal age, drinking in my backyard without anybody knowing, like my friend that was also of legal age that bought the beer for me was like, be careful. And we're like, and my friend woke up in a bush. My other friend woke up like just like sleeping in the backyard on his back.
Yeah.
And
sounds about right.
It was trouble. It was really trouble. And yeah, it's a good thing that I got stopped. Mm-hmm. But we can remember how great it was.
Yeah, it's always great in your memory back in the good old days.
Yeah, no, but it's a good thing. It had to stop.
I don't think it made me a better person.
Definitely not. But we can look down upon Evan because he never had it.
Poor thing. And before Four Loko, I was into Sparks. Do you remember Sparks?
Was that the one?
it was just another caffeinated malt beverage. And I remember like when I moved to Philly, my first apartment, I would like set up a Sparks Pong table in my living room, and my friends.
Nice.
And because we wanted to get and we used smaller cups. We wanted to get really good at Pong. So we were like, we're not using beer. We're using Sparks because we're insane.
So,
and smaller cups so that we get really good at our aim.
So she was essentially a co-founder of Sam Adams.
Okay.
She was like the first salesperson, but like she built it with Jim Cook, and co-founder, we pronounce his name, and like she was like literally second in charge and like built it with him. She left at some point and spun off this caffeinated beer brand.
Whoa.
And I forget what it was called, but like it kind of got shut down immediately because everyone was just like, no, like this is not good.
Yeah.
But Surfsides obviously have taken the world by storm. Surfsides are caffeinated.
Right.
Tea is caffeinated.
Right. Yeah.
But because the caffeine is, because it is naturally occurring, you cannot, the law with because you can have coffee beers. The law with caffeine is it has to be naturally occurring. You can't just add caffeine powder. When I used to work at Keystone Homebrew, they're out of business now, so I can talk about it. We used to serve Four Loko kits where you could just make homebrew Four Loko, and they just had caffeinated powder they would just pour into it. But with Surfsides, they're naturally caffeinated because there's tea, so you're allowed to have it. So a lot of these things that like why the teas are popular right now, like they're decarbonated, they're very drinkable, these other things, but like when you're drinking it, it's a different type of high than just getting drunk.
I never thought about
and it's like
caffeine.
all these young people are drinking it and they're like, well, I feel amazing right now. It's yes, it's decaffeinated, yes, it's very drinkable, but like you're getting a little bit of juice in there. And it's like it's something that like, you know, they're not talking about. Like I've heard the CEO Clement Pappas, he's like, people have asked him about it, he talks about it a little bit, but like they're not like advertising it. I don't think that they want to like poke that bear, but it's I don't know how much caffeine. I mean, it could be like 2%, so it doesn't mean anything, but like I think, or like 2 milligrams, but like I think that's like part of the rise of the tea movement is that there's naturally carbonated. It's like coffee beers are not a thing. Like 'cause you can't drink 12 of them,
right?
But you drink 12.
I never thought about that. That's a good point. Everyone drinks Surfsides. That's all they want.
But it's not just the flavor, you know. Like I think there's something else behind it.
They want the kick.
Yes.
This episode of the Brewdat podcast is brought to you by Zilka & Co., your trusted regional brewing supply partner. Family owned for over 100 years of business, Zilka delivers world-class products at competitive prices with flat $5 delivery fee. No pallet or liftgate charges thanks to their own fleet of regularly maintained trucks. With locations in Allentown and Hunker and a technical brewer on staff, they provide the expertise and service your brewery deserves. Reach out to Brad Adelson in the show notes and let him know Brewdat sent you.
So we just did some research. Surfsides are between 20 and 30 milligrams caffeine per can.
That's a lot.
Depending on what it is.
That's a lot, right?
And it's small. You know, Four Loko is what? It's 19 and a half, or it's a large can.
Wow.
That is a number I was not expecting.
That was just something I was not considering in the boom of the ready to drink.
It's something that I don't think that they talk about, and I think that it's helping them, but it's like it's something that like I think that people know about. It's I think the crowd would like run even further towards it. I think that they would chase that. But it's kind of like a weird thing. You can't ban that because it's natural. Like you can't ban coffee beers. You can't ban tea things because it feels natural. But just interesting.
Yeah.
So you know how when you go to a brewery, they have more selections than what you might see out in the world. Like if you Victory, like if you go to a beer store.
We have an update. Espresso is not 30 milligrams. Green tea is 30 milligrams. Okay. So glad we cleared that up.
Great. We're all clear on that. But yeah, you know how we see like the Victory's Monkey beer line out everywhere. But then if you go to a Victory tap room or one of their like brew houses that has tap rooms, they have many more options. It's the same with cider. So Angry Orchard distributes like maybe 5 or so, I'm not going to say the number. I don't actually know, but you see certain Angry Orchard ciders out in the world. If you went to their actual tap room or facility in upstate New York, they have many different types of cider, many non-sweet ciders. I've had many Angry Orchard ciders that were not.
Is Angry Orchard legit? I mean, I was talking kind of crap on them before. Like, is that when you go there, like, is it actually good cider?
I know people that work for Angry Orchard that are great people that care a lot about agriculture and craft beverage, and they're good people. It's a large company. It's owned by Sam Adams, I think.
Yeah.
So whatever comes with that, expect that. But I wish they were distributing more of their portfolio.
It's kind of the same way, Anheuser-Busch is like, you talk shit on Bud Light, but like as a brewer, you're like, wow, that's so impressive that they can make that. It's kind of like, they are very great cider makers, I guess. But
yeah, I mean, it's a big company, and also we live in a capitalist society. You got to sell what's gonna pay the bills. So
definitely, I love this beer. I don't think that you could sell however much Angry Orchard is selling of this beer.
No. I mean, it's just you call it beer. I just have to correct you.
I'm sorry. Of cider.
We're talking about cider tonight, okay?
Of the Graft cider.
Right. But it does. They are appealing to the craft beverage drinker. But yes, most people yes. Budweiser is making a lot of money.
Yeah.
And I mean, I not Bud Light, but my friend calls it Bud Heavy. I'll have some Bud Heavy. If I'm at a dive bar and I see the lineup, I'll get a can of Budweiser.
Yeah.
I prefer it in a bottle. I think that's psychological. The same way with like Mexican lagers. Like, I only want a Corona if it's in a bottle. I don't want it.
It's psychological, but I agree with you. It's just it's different.
I don't know why.
It's part of the experience.
Yeah. But it's probably this. I don't know. Or a High Life. I don't want High Life in a can. I want it in a bottle, and I want it to be so cold. And if it's not any of those things, I don't want it.
Yes.
Yeah. But maybe that's psychological, or maybe it isn't. Who knows? But yeah. My intention was to get you through a tasting experience of mild to wild, and I feel like we're getting there.
So what is this?
So you are still on the last one, so I need you to.
Yeah, Richie's walking home, so it's okay.
I need you to move it up a bit.
Ready.
But so this is a cider from Graft.
Oh wow,
It's really fresh with tasting or smelling.
Are you getting any specific aromas?
Pomegranate, maybe.
Red fruit. We're in the red fruit category.
Raspberry. I don't know. It's like
raspberry. That's right.
So this is
strawberry rosé. I missed it last time. Now I missed it this time.
Yeah. So this contains strawberry, rhubarb, hibiscus, rose hips, rose petals, orange extract. And once you hear all those things, like I get it.
Now I taste it. Yeah.
I definitely taste rose in there, actually.
Yeah. But I think that the color, I think the hibiscus is doing a lot for the color. I don't think it would be this like vibrant.
Yeah, and the rhubarb. It's
the rhubarb too.
Strawberry, even for beer, is like a hard flavor to get. So you have to like combine it. I think a lot of beers use like rhubarb and hibiscus together or something, or rhubarb and cucumber flavored. Tastes like strawberry. There's like, you can't just like use strawberries to make something taste like strawberries. You have to use like 2 other flavors to then combine, and then you put like 1 strawberry in and make it strawberry flavored.
I've heard that about peach in beer. A lot of the time they also add apricot to make it peachier.
Yeah.
Like I think Voluptuous Fuzz by 2SP, they put both in it, but it like identifies as a peach beer.
Yeah, and blueberry has no flavor to it. It has no character at all.
Yeah.
You have to add other flavors to it for it to like bring out the blueberry flavor.
Yeah. Totally.
This is really good though.
Yeah, this might be one of my favorites.
So I think this is great if someone if someone says, "Oh, I actually like sweet cider." Like I like fruity cider. It's like, this is a dry cider, but it has that, what did I call it? this perceived sweetness from all those.
I mean, even on the can, it says fizzy and fruity. It's just like a different marketing.
Yeah. Speaking of the can and the design, so they have an artist named Caleb Lukelin, and he does all of their label designs. So now that you've seen a few of their cans, I guarantee you when you walk in a bottle shop, your eyes are going to shoot towards them. And
definitely,
even if you don't see the name Graft, you're going to say that's a Graft cider because they just do this really incredible
it's beautiful
work. Like
Hale and True also. I mean, they're all different, but like I don't look at ciders a lot, but now I'm seeing them like it's all on brand, it's all clean.
So Hale and True is owned by a married couple, Risa and Carrie McKenzie. Carrie makes the cider. He also is an artistic person, so he will draw artwork. And then Risa has a design background.
Cool.
Which is why their branding is on point. Their tap room is gorgeous. It's like beautifully curated. It's like a very pleasant space to be in. Carrie's dad is a woodworker, and he built like the bar tops and the tables. Like it's all so the tap handles are all like the flight boards. Like everything is just so thoughtfully curated, and you can tell. So they're just like a total power couple between like he'll draw this beautiful apple picture, and then she will take it and make it look good on a piece of merch.
Nice.
Their merch is awesome too. Like they always have really cool like shirts and hats and all that stuff. So. But yeah, you can now tell. You'll also probably be able to point out Hale and True when you go out.
Yeah.
Because they, aside from the standard, they're always going to do like the 3 tiered color striping.
Yeah. Very detailed.
But the same thing with the Graft. It's like kind of the same. It's very, very on brand. It's like
it's like vibrant. It's like super artsy. Like so many
different fonts,
colors. Like like look at that. Like that.
And even on the bottom, like the one we just had, fizzy and fruity. The one we had before, the tart and earthy. It's like, like you said, like I feel like a lot of people don't know ciders, so you kind of have to like put it in your face. So you wouldn't say for like a beer like the front 2 flavors that you just have to put out there, but
no, I think both of these brands are doing an amazing job, and they make great product, and they also both like really care about supporting local agriculture and just making good stuff with good ingredients. Like they will never compromise their integrity for that ever.
Yeah.
And how many people can you list that do that? But yeah, it's really cool. Yeah. So I was talking a bit about ciders in cocktails. So sparkling ciders are great as a wine replacement. Like if you're making a French 75, instead of topping it with champagne, top it with cider. At Hale and True, they have a drink called the Cider Gin Fizz that essentially is that. You can also use it as a replacement for club soda or tonic water. But also one of the categories of cider is called dessert cider, and under dessert cider is distillates. So any sort of cocktail that you're making, you could replace with an apple brandy, and like you could make an Applejack Old Fashioned. There's also a type of cider called Pommeau, which is, it's technically, if you're in the wine world, it would be called a mistel, but it's cider. It's apple distillate, so like a brandy mixed with fresh juice, and that's what a Pommeau is. And using that as like a simple syrup or something would be like incredible in a cocktail because it's like a flavored simple syrup with a little bit of boozy backbone. So there are so many different applications of cider. You can just enjoy it. You can use it in cooking, like making the standard with like any sort of like deglazing when you're cooking like onions with butter or something like that. Their hop cider, which we don't have today, like that goes amazing with Italian food. So like anything you're cooking, using it like a white wine cooking sauce. Yeah. I literally actually strongly believe that the options are endless.
They are. I mean, like because of all the adjuncts you can add, like, there's so many different things. So we're going to have one more.
We are going to have one more, and then I want you to have a little taste of this. It's not, okay. We don't need to do too much.
But is this the same company?
So no. So this is a company.
Should we wait? I'm sorry, because we have one more before this.
Yeah. Wait, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I wanted to learn a little bit about like a Pommelier specifically.
Yeah.
Like you are the first in Philadelphia, is that correct? Like
first in Philly and first female in Pennsylvania.
That that's so cool.
Do you know other Pommeliers?
I do.
How do you know how many there are?
There are under 200 in the world.
Wow.
So do you know Max, what is his name? He was head of beer education at Victory. Max Finance.
If I saw his face, maybe. I'm sure we've been at the same Philly Beer Week after party.
He's like,
oh yeah, he looks really familiar.
he's like taking different, I want to really have him on the podcast at some point, but he's like taking like a different angle to like a lot of people in the industry, whereas like it is
I saw him
straight
in
up
Chicago. Yeah,
education
Yeah.
and tasting. Like he's a
Yeah.
master.
Oh my gosh, he's a
Cicerone, master Cicerone, Pommelier, and then I think he's just like doing the like a couple other like alcoholic things.
EJCP. He's in beer, cider, and mead.
And he travels the world essentially. He doesn't work at Victor or ABV anymore, but like he like now travels the world as like doing conferences and like teaching events.
I
And
want to be
like
friends with him.
he's awesome. He's awesome, and he's like a great public speaker.
Yeah.
But because there's like so few of you, it's different than like a master sommelier or something else where like, you know, it is kind of a tight knit community. On the Pommelier website, 'cause I did a little research. They list every single person that's a Pommelier and they're certified Pom, and they give like a little bio of every single person also.
Yeah. It was so exciting finding out that I passed because I studied for months and I'm a terrible test taker. I was always the student that made up for tests being lower score by doing a presentation or writing a long paper. Like I would rather write the longest paper in the world than take a test. I hate tests. And so I was really worried.
So what's the test like?
So before you are even eligible to take the certified POM exam, you have to become a certified cider guide. So that's the certified cider guide is the level 1 certified beer server to Cicerone.
Yeah.
So it's an online exam. You have 2 attempts to take it. It's 30 minutes. You read a 20-page packet. You pay attention, and you should pass. So it's like very general knowledge cider stuff. So you have to pass that first. I passed that in 2021. So within my first year of being at Hale True. The certified Pommelier exam is written theory is one section, and then there's a tasting portion.
What's written theory? Is that just like how to make it, or is that tasting, or is that what does that entail?
It's 2 hours of essay and short answer questions that cover everything from farming to tasting notes, to pairings, to ciders of the world, like knowing the distinguishing factors between different regions of cider. It's basically the certified cider guide exam times 10. So you have to know a lot of different information of about like 5 different areas of cider. And yeah, it's everywhere from like farming practices to grafting cider trees, which is like putting a cutting onto a rootstock to grow a tree. Like you have to know all of that. And then you have to know a bunch of different apple varieties, Kingston Black. There was a question on my exam about Arkansas Black, which is a different type of apple, and I forgot about it. So I just wrote like what I knew about Kingston Black, and I was like, I hope these cider. I was like, I hope these apples are related because I'm going in. I over-explained in my questions and ran out of time, and my hope was that by over-explaining in the questions I got to that I would pass, and thankfully I did, because I missed like I did not answer one full essay question, and I think I didn't answer like 2 or 3 of the short answer questions. So after that part of the exam, I was like, fuck. I was like, I didn't get to it. Like I'm gonna have to take that part again, because you can pass one of the 2 sections and only have to retake the other one, which I love. I think all exams should do that.
Yeah.
Like, why retake a section that you've already passed? So it's a 2-hour exam, short answer essay of everything from apple to glass to consumer. Oh, it asks questions about like the TTB and labels and what you're allowed to write on cider labels and what's required and what's optional. And
because if you pass, you're an expert cider person. So somebody should be able to go to you
Right.
and ask you anything that there is to know about ciders.
So it's 2 hours of that, and then you get a 15-minute break, and then you have an hour and 15-minute tasting. The first 15 minutes is the first section. You get 3 ciders, and it's 3 questions that you have to answer in 15 minutes. And the questions are basically, cider A is more tannic than cider C. Question 2, cider C is higher in sugar content than cider A. And so you have to assess all 3 ciders and then be able to compare them in 15 minutes. So that was the first section. And then it was hour-long tasting. And then new ciders were brought to me, and I had to do a full assessment of each cider. There's a sensory analysis worksheet where you go from appearance, aroma, palate, and then you write a final assessment. And before the exam, the exam scorers, they all assess the ciders together. And if their answers aren't lining up, you have to accept, like if I answered something, but only one of the judges said, oh, that was something I picked up, you can still get points for that. Basically, you have to get a certain amount of the same answers as the judges got.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Both sections, I was literally writing into the last minute. Like I was like the last chick in the room, like looking around, being like, one guy left like 20 minutes early. And I was like,
Do you think you passed?
I don't know. Yeah. I forget what he looked like. And when I looked at the list, I was just excited that I got it.
I remember taking my like AP history class in high school. And I was just like, I have no idea who Tippecanoe and Tower 2 are, but I'm just writing a random story about them until the time ends out.
But I was mad that they didn't, because I studied a lot.
Yeah.
I was almost mad that they didn't ask certain questions. So I would over explain certain answers because I was like, just so you know, I also know this.
Yeah, I'm smart.
I was like, even though this isn't in the question, like there was a question about pears. Oh, I forgot to talk about pears. Sorry, pears. So pears fall under the same category as so perry is to pears as cider is to apples. So a perry is a pear wine. And so there's questions about pears as well. And so one of the questions they asked about, because pears have a non-fermentable sugar in them, the apples don't. It's called sorbitol. So pears are harder to make. They're rare because pears are harder to grow. They're less available. And it's also just harder to ferment properly. So I remember one of the questions was asking about that. And it wasn't a part of the question, but I wrote every variety of pear that I knew because I was just like,
just put it on the paper.
I was like, this can't hurt.
Yeah, right.
Like this can't hurt. Same thing with red fleshed apples. There's certain types of apples that have a red flesh. They're so beautiful. Like you cut them open and they are like this vibrant pink. And sometimes it's just the flesh. Sometimes it's the skin and the flesh. But there was a question about that too. And I was so mad because I had all 7 of them memorized and they didn't ask about it. But I wrote it anyway because I was like, I am letting you know that I know this.
How ironic is it that they are flashing us that we need to hurry up? But I'm sorry. So what is this?
This is a yuzu champagne cider.
So yuzu is a lemon.
I guess, right? Yuzu,
right?
It says
yuzu lemon.
Yeah. Yeah. It says, yes, apples, yuzu.
But an Asian lemon, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yuzu emulsion. It has white wine juice, peony white tea, ginger, ginseng.
I like this a lot. I'm just smelling it.
Champagne yeast. Yeah, help yourself to
That's really good.
That smells like it's gonna be like a light iced tea. Like I get the tea on the nose.
Mm-hmm. But does it have ginger in it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like this a lot.
I get the ginger, but it's not smacking me in the taste buds. I get it, but it's I get the white tea.
But it's not super. It's not super sour.
Yeah,
this is good. Ceremony.
What's ceremony?
The
name of it. But yeah, I guess that's for some reason. I didn't realize
this is good.
So yeah, that's one of their a little like more experimental ciders, but some of the they'll put matcha in a cider.
Wow.
They put some crazy stuff in their cider. So if you ever see them in bottle shops, grab a couple cans because it's they do some really interesting stuff.
And we were talking about this when you went on your bathroom break, but I really feel as if like some of these more wild ciders, as you're saying, can kind of fit in the same category as like sour beers.
Yeah.
It's like it's almost in a similar, I don't want to say space, but it's like a same sort of vibe. It's giving.
What's the how old can these be? Like the sour beers we tasted with Tom are like 30 years old. Like how long do these last?
I mean, the way I was taught things, you should enjoy something in a can within a year of it being canned.
Yeah.
Technically, it could last forever. Yeah. Will some of the notes drop off? Absolutely. Especially with like a brand like these guys who are they're not using.
And it tastes good. There's probably quality packaging also.
Yeah. I think you should. My opinion is, don't gatekeep your cans. Like, yeah, drink them. Like they're meant to.
But can you age cider?
You can. So the rule I follow is if it's in a bottle, age it. Okay. If it's in a can, crush that.
Got it.
Yeah. Particularly if it's a cork and cage.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if it's a cork and cage, make sure you're storing it on its side.
Keep the cork moist.
Yeah. So last but not least, this big guy. So this is a cider from Ironbound. Ironbound is based out of Asbury, New Jersey, not Asbury Park.
Where is it? I know where Asbury Park is.
It's in Hunterdon County.
Okay.
Glen Gardner.
Where's that?
Northwest Jersey. It's
when I think of North Jersey. I'm sorry, we're running out of time.
No, it's right.
When I think of North Jersey is really Central Jersey, but there's this whole section of Jersey. No,
okay.
But there's this whole section of Jersey.
You seem to have strong opinions about New Jersey. I don't know. Are you
North Jersey is by New York City in my mind. But there's this whole section of New Jersey that is North Jersey that is north of North Jersey in my mind.
Yeah, that's valid.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. So crazy thing to think about, because when we think about Newark, this is called Newark cider because they're making a reference to Newark. Newark actually is a biblical term. Newark or Newark, it's Newark of the Covenant. We don't have time to talk about it, but Google it. But Newark was a robust cider growing region, it's just crazy to think about that, because I was at the train station recently and the idea of apples being good near there is kind of hard to think about. But this is their cider royale. I was talking about a category of cider called Pommelier earlier, which is like distillate with juice. This is distillate with fermented cider. So this is like a little bit of a bump up from that, but this was one of the original cocktails of the Americas. It's literally just cider on top of cider. So it's 18.5%. It's boozy, but it's Ironbound makes amazing cider, and they are really committed to a specific varietal of cider making apple called Harrison, which is my favorite varietal. And so this is a Harrison cider, Newark cider.
Where would you even find something like this? Like, this is like such an in-between thing. Like, you wouldn't find this in a beer store. Like, when would you drink this? Like, I wouldn't go back and drink a glass of this, obviously, because it's 18.5%. In a bar, is somebody ordering a shot of this? Is somebody ordering a 4-ounce pour of this? Like, how do you even drink this or like order it or consume it?
I think that well, let's try it. But I think that you could enjoy it on its own on the rocks. I also think that you could enjoy it in a cocktail. I don't think most people know what this is, and this is not being.
It's such an in between. Yeah. Like, it's not liquor, it's not wine, it's not beer.
I'll give you just a little tad, but yeah, it's the Harrison apple is an apple that is like very well known for making cider, and it was one of the apples that was cleared out back in the day. So this specific cidery they have like a Harrison apple line where they do like sparkling Harrison apples. They do these distillates. They blend it with other cider making apples, and I think they're just doing such a good job reviving one of the oldest cider making apples that is native to the U.S., specifically New Jersey.
What do you think?
I enjoy it. It smells great. It smells like super sweet.
But yeah, this is under the category of dessert cider.
I don't think I've had an alcohol that tastes like this.
But yeah, all you should be getting is the notes from the apple and then wood, like, because it's been barrel aged. So like,
it's like syrupy. It's like woody. It's it's like thick. I don't know. It's like not viscous, I guess.
No, it doesn't have that syrupiness that like is unpleasant. It goes down easy. Yeah.
But how would you consume this? I mean, you poured us a half an ounce of this. Like,
well, yeah, I want you to make it home.
I know, but somebody that's purchasing this and drinking it, like, would you pour it in like a?
I would, for me at home, I would personally enjoy this over a large rock after dinner.
Cool.
Or I would make some sort of fun cocktail with it. Like I would have this as the base spirit, maybe add some lemon and some sort of like infused simple syrup, and then probably top it with cider.
Exactly what you're saying. Like you can do different things with it. Cool.
But yeah, Ironbound's another great brand to look out for. It's owned by a very caring person that is just like trying to do good in the world. It started in Newark, and I think all or most of the employees were all folks that were previously incarcerated. And so they were like really focusing on amplifying.
Is that what Ironbound means?
So a lot of people think that, but Ironbound is actually a neighborhood in Newark.
Oh.
Yeah. And then they moved out to Asbury, not Asbury Park. And now they have a farm and like a beautiful tap room. And I actually haven't visited it yet, but I can't wait to go check it out. It looks really beautiful.
This is really good. But the other ciders you brought, I felt like had a lot, I don't know how to say this. There's like different things going on with the drinks. This is like just very straightforward.
Yeah.
Like, this is what it is. It tastes good.
Yeah, if you're a brown liquor person,
Yeah.
I would have you try this.
Like this over Big Rock, but you don't want to get drunk. I think that this is like a chill, like a Bud Light version of like a whiskey drink.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. But yeah, cider deserves its own section on a menu.
Yeah, so it's good.
Look at all the vastness that it can be. And also specifically for the region we're in, we should really be proud. There are so many amazing cideries in this region that make great stuff.
This was fantastic.
Yeah, this was awesome. So before we have to wrap up, but I want you to give a little sales pitch on the Blind Bear Beverages that you brought.
Sure. So I have a product line of mixers and bitters that are, well, the bitters are being released later this year in the summer, but these are my mixers. I have 5 total, but these are 2 of the most popular ones. This one's called Old Fashioned Love, and it's an old fashioned mixer. So literally just grab whatever dark liquor you have on hand, mix it with.
Is there alcohol in these?
No.
Okay. Cool.
There's technically like 0.5% because like there are bitters in here and fermentation happens.
I don't see many, there's a couple brands out there that are like bitters or like these mixed drink alternate that are branded, but it's cool. Like it's almost like a blue market where like a green market where like you're coming in like there's nothing that you're really competing with. It's just you're kind of creating this market.
Yeah, I'm trying. The difficulty I'm having is they need to be refrigerated because there's not any
preservatives or
crap in them.
Yeah.
And so when I'm trying to sell, especially at like smaller shops in Philly, which is what aligns with my like mission, it's sometimes they have a hard time fitting me in because they have limited fridge space or they just, can only carry so many. But this is Old Fashioned Love. So mix it with a dark liquor, or literally sometimes I just pour it over ice and drink it on its own and like pretend I'm having an old fashioned, and it like hits the spot. And it's literally just filtered water, cane sugar, and house bitters. I'm working on making a line of bitters. Hopefully I'll be able to announce that later this year. And then this one is Pickleback. It's a
great color.
Thank you. Yeah. It's pickle juice. You can chase your shots with it or make a pickletini.
Nice.
Or if you're not your girlfriend, have it with some mezcal.
Mezcal is you need to get a Victoria or a Modelo and just a little besos of Mezcal, and then your light beer. That's it.
I will try that.
Okay.
If you promise to try that with
I'll try this. No, you're bringing it in. I'm going to try it. But yes.
Good.
We'll do it. Cool. This is a great episode.
Thank you.
We have to have you back to do a food tasting, cookie tasting, whatever it is. But these ciders were amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Where can we find you?
I'm most active on Instagram.
Okay.
Just Blind Bear Beverages. If you go on my Instagram, I also have all my other handles through my link tree, so I won't list them all out now. But yeah, Blind Bear Beverages on Instagram or blindbearbeverages.com.
Cool. Awesome. And then what? What are we doing on Spotify?
Give us a 5-star on Spotify.
5 stars on Spotify.
Yes.
Follow us on YouTube.
Yes.
And we'll see you guys next week at Brewdat at the Brewdat Podcast.
Thanks.
Cool. Awesome.
guys.
Thank you.